Well, welcome to the Cut for Time podcast here at the Canton United Methodist Church. My name is Pastor Clay, joined by Eric Stearns, and today we're digging into my message from Sunday, which was the end of our Loving Large series. We have not had a podcast during this sermon series just because of the way that our schedules work and just the way that life operates sometimes. So it was good to just come together to talk about the series, why we're doing this series, why this series matters, what God's love really looks like in our relationships, and then just what it means for us to live out what God's love looks like. So let's get into it.
It's good. So this is our first time back on this podcast in a while. We're getting old and have older kids, and it just gets harder and harder. So, first of this series,
Mm-hmm.
doing a podcast. Why did you pick the love series?
Yeah. So part of it was just because, I mean, Valentine's Day, like every single holiday, starts earlier and earlier. Like the day after Christmas, you were seeing Valentine's Day stuff being, advertised and centralized, and there's so much pressure on trying to do Valentine's Day right, and the right way of showing love. And it usually involved buying some person's product, of believing in their marketing, of biting on the bait that they're putting out there. And it is this, kind of this byproduct of consumerism that, you cannot properly love without doing XYZ and, all this stuff. And I think that we can tend to buy into that when it comes to our faith that we talk about, because we talk about love a lot. Love is so central to who we are and how we function and how we operate and our identity, because we believe that God is love. And so when we show love in a way that honors God, we are, showing the character of God. And so it was just kind of important for me to I'm not trying to like take a stand against Valentine's Day. Don't hear that. Don't hear that as what I'm saying. But I just think it's important for us to realize that we are also called to show love in the church. We are also called to show love as God's people. And because we are trying to show God's love over and above the way that the world shows love, it's going to look different. It's going to be different. And so I wanted us to kind of highlight those differences over the weeks the week that came up to Valentine's Day, and then the weeks after Valentine's Day, as a way of just preparing us for, we're about to head. We've got this little intermezzo of Camp Sunday, but then we're heading into the Lenten season where we're going to see the love of God on full display through the person of Jesus. So,
Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, because I'll kind of give it away right now. We're going to be rushing to the cross of Jesus during the season of Lent. We're going to be staying there and exploring the 7 statements that Jesus makes from the cross during the season of Lent. Those last final words.
Shouldn't say that's exciting, but that is exciting. Like, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be it's a fascinating topic to me.
Mhm.
There's a great quote that I'm going to be using in the first sermon of the series from William Barclay that talks about how the fact that Jesus was able to speak at all is a minor miracle in and of itself, just because of the what your body goes through physiologically in the crucifixion. And so the fact that he was able to utter not just one statement but 7 statements shows the strength that God was granting to him even on the
Hmm.
cross.
Hmm.
So, and that he would expend the energy to make these utterances shows the depth of love that he had for humanity. Yeah. So
Well, look at that. It's just going to transition nicely, isn't it?
that's kind of my plan. I like trying to figure out ways that these can, not that I'm preaching one, 52 week long sermon series, but I do like there to be a motion and a direction to where we're heading. So, yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Yep. Because the last words of Jesus are going to give way to the first words of resurrection on Easter Sunday, and then it gets a little bit hairy after that with my planning, but we'll get there. So,
That's good.
yeah.
So what on, typically I'll ask, what did you cut? But we had actually talked about that
Hmm.
pre turning on pushing the record button.
Yeah.
Um, you haven't cut anything.
Yeah, I really did not cut a whole lot. There was an alternate introduction to Sunday's sermon because there's a quote from How I Met Your Mother about John Mayer, where Lily meets current Lily meets past Lily, and past Lily talks about how she's so excited to hear if John Mayer had continued to churn out, hits after hits after hits. And he kind of turned into a little bit of a one hit wonder. He has You're Beautiful, but he also has Waiting on the World to Change. And as you look at the commercial success of both of those songs, Waiting on the World to Change actually did a lot better
Hmm.
than You're Wonderful or You're Beautiful. You're Beautiful. Um,
Mhm.
and Yeah, so he kind of turns into a one-hit wonder. And so I went kind of down a rabbit hole of talking about how um Jesus is not calling us to show love as a one-hit wonder. I was going to talk about some of the most famous examples through the decades of one-hit wonders. I did a bunch of research about just, I had one back from the 50s and the 60s and the 70s, and then I jumped to the 90s just to kind of move forward in the sermon. But no one strikes out to be a one-hit wonder. In the music business, people that have gone to so much work of honing their craft of, finding friends to start a band, finding representation, putting themselves out there. Everyone wants to be the next Metallica. Everyone wants to be the next Beyonce, but you can't. There's only one or two of those generational talents. I mean, there's only one band like the Rolling Stones that's been touring since the mid 60s, and they're
Mhm.
doing another farewell tour right now. It's the farewell of the farewell of the farewell.
Mhm.
But yet, you know we can sometimes treat God's love like a one-hit wonder too. That we find our niche, we find our thing, we find just this one thing that we're going to do forever and ever, or we have one experience of showing God's love and we just completely hang our hats on that. So just like no one strikes out to be a one hit wonder in the music industry, we too are not called to be one hit wonders when it comes to God's love and showing God's love. So, but the transition into the scripture didn't work nearly as well as I thought it did. And so on Saturday morning, I opened up a brand new blank Word document and wrote my sermon. Yeah. Yep.
Complete pivot. How often is that? How often
Very,
do you do that?
very rarely. I
Sure.
mean, very rarely will that happen, especially because I've already, I mean, with this one hit wonder idea, I had done so much research. Because like you know, the one hit wonder that comes to mind for me is Chumbawamba with the I get knocked down, but I get up again. And
Hmm.
I was actually going to sing that in the sermon on Sunday, if I had gone with that one hit wonder introduction. And so I try to honor the work that I have been doing and trying to find a way to make it work. But this ended up working so much better. So,
Sure.
yep. So I mean, this entire sermon was a complete and total rewrite.
That's crazy and
Yep.
impressive.
Well, I had the back grip so tight because I wanted to build to John Mayer being a one hit wonder and talking about waiting on the world to change and then taking it from there. And so I just said I need to lose the rest of this because that waiting on the world to change is going to become such a central point in the sermon. I could feel it as I was writing that, waiting on the world to change ends up not being the best way of showing God's love. Actively, humbly, quietly, repetitively showing God's love is what allows the world to change. We've had an entire sermon series now. Do you want to talk about what you did for Jenna on Valentine's Day? I mean, this is about how we show love, what did you do or what have you done recently, not just Valentine's Day, but how have you shown love to your spouse?
Well, I have very strong feelings about Valentine's Day, and they're not. However, I always get her flowers. It's just either well before or well after the day.
Hmm.
So my in-laws don't have to worry about her stuff.
Yeah,
It's one less thing that they have to do that week because they're plenty busy owning a flower shop.
definitely. Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
no, typically we do not. we do not celebrate Valentine's Day
Mm,
like we're supposed to, or like the world tells us to,
right.
because we show each other that we love each other the rest of the days of the year.
Hmm.
Um, I just think this idea of loving, whether it's your spouse or your family or whoever, is just so important to everything that we do. You can't just put a day on it. If all
Mm,
you're doing is putting a day on it or keeping it to one day, it's just you're missing the point.
yeah,
Um,
that's fair.
and things is not how you show that. It just isn't.
Yeah.
Like when your spouse has a bad day, just giving them space, letting
Mhm.
them just be and not worrying about, not trying to fix everything, not trying to, because, that's one place I do struggle sometimes. I'm always constantly trying to fix whatever's going on, but sometimes you just need to let it be and leave it alone and
Hmm.
take the kids somewhere else or,
Yep.
just,
Yeah.
yeah,
The engineer wants to fix things.
yeah, right.
Weird.
There's a,
Funny how that
there's,
works out.
there has got to be a formula to this and I'm going to figure it out. But you know what I mean? Just
Yeah.
sometimes yeah, you just have to stand back and in the moment, you're like, no, I'm going to fix this thing. But
Hmm. Yep. Yeah, it isn't always about just, I mean, it's more about just having, like you said, the space to just be heard and, understood when
mm,
it feels like no one else understands. Yeah, my feelings about Valentine's Day definitely are reflective of yours as well. But I did choose to be a little cliche this year. Went to the flower shop and got Lindsay flowers. I went to Taco John's and got her tacos, and then went to the hardware store and got her screws for one of her benches in her classroom that needed fixed. And so we had tacos for lunch, and I fixed her benches on Valentine's Day.
well, there you go.
Yeah, it worked.
See, but that once again, that's practical and that
Right.
makes sense. It doesn't need to be extravagant. It doesn't need to be, um, all materialistic.
Right.
Uh,
Yep.
yeah. Taco John's Day, it's a pretty good one. I'll use that next year.
Yeah, there you go. Hmm. Tacos and churros is what I went with.
There you go. Ooh,
So,
can't go wrong with churro.
nope, it was pretty good.
So yeah, that wraps up the sermon series on love, and then you said you kind of hinted at we're gonna have a little bit of a dance before Lent. So what's coming in between there?
Yeah, so on Sunday, Nicole Anderson from Lake Ponce Camp and Living Waters Retreat Center will be coming down to do Camp Sunday. She'll be introducing us to the 2025 camp curriculum, which I have been able to look at because I dean camps. And it's going to be really, really fun and really cool because it is talking about how there's another way. We see things linearly, like there's just one after the other. A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D. That's not always how life works. Jesus is in the business of changing lives, changing things, and showing us another way. And so we are going to be talking on Sunday about one of the days of our camp curriculum. I'm not quite sure which direction Nicole's going with that, but we're going to be talking about how when we encounter Jesus, we do not leave that encounter the same way that we did. Jesus changes things. Jesus changes us. Jesus changes circumstances in the best possible way. Sometimes Jesus makes things harder, but we're going to be focusing on just the way that we are transformed to live in the light of Christ, and then also just celebrating how much fun camp is and just getting people excited about that. This year, we are having a much earlier Camp Sunday than previous years. We've been kind of flirting with the early bird deadline, which is a really good savings on our camping for the past couple of years. And so, someone last year said, "Hey, is there any possibility we can do this earlier in the registration period?" And so I called Nicole that day and said, "Hey, how early are you willing to do a Camp Sunday?" And she said, "You just tell me when and I'll show up if I've got the date available." And so we were able to book this. And if it goes well, this might be just kind of when we do Camp Sunday from here on out. So It's also Communion Sunday, and so we're going to be doing communion camp style. I've already been talking with Pastor Nicole about that as well. We're going to be doing grapes and some kind of cracker rather than grape juice and bread. It's kind of what we do at camp sometimes because it's the supplies that you have sometimes at camp rather than the supplies that you want. And so we'll be doing communion on Sunday and just celebrating camp. And then we're having our goodie auction after worship to help raise money for camp scholarships because the Canton United Methodist Church does provide a 75% scholarship. And so we raise the funds for that. And then there are also some donors that have approached me about the other 25% and filling that gap. Just there should not be a reason. The finances should not be a reason why anyone from our church can't go to camp. So
That's really cool.
yeah, it's been really touching, like, especially because we've been talking for the last couple of weeks about love and how we show love and extend love, and this is just feels like such a natural illustration of the way God's love is supposed to operate
Mhm. Absolutely.
in real time. So
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah. So super excited about that. Super excited to have a week where I'm not preaching. And then I love getting the ability to let my friends come and preach. So it'll be really fun to have Nicole with us.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah.
I'm always looking forward. I love Camp Sunday.
Hmm.
I would say it's probably the second best Sunday of the year, maybe the third after Easter at least. So,
Yeah. Yep.
but
I
a lot
hear you.
easier for you though.
Yeah.
You don't
Oh
have to
yeah.
prepare nearly as much.
Nope.
It'll be
Nope.
good. And
Yeah.
that I agree that Goodie Auction is definitely our best fundraiser without doing hardly any work for it. So
Hmm.
you just mentioned camps and people come bring checks.
Yes,
So,
it's amazing. I really, I'm just in awe and so appreciative of the way that this church supports camp and retreat ministries on the like conference level. I mean, and then just also the way that we want our kids to go to camp. And adults too, because camp isn't just for kids. Since both Eric and I will be campers this summer with our kids. So yeah, but yeah, it's really inspiring to watch how much we love camp and want that to be a part of our discipleship here at the church.
well, thanks for joining us on this week's Cover Time podcast. Join us again next week, as we mentioned, for Camp Sunday. And for the Goodie Auction, bring your checkbooks. I'll repeat that. Please come to the Goodie Auction and bring your checkbooks. And then back here, we'll see if we get a podcast in next week. So
Thanks for listening to our Cut for Time conversation. Join us for worship in person or on Facebook Live Sundays at 10 o'clock Central Time. And now go in peace and serve the Lord.